There are things in this world scarier than monsters. Not because they lurk in the dark, but because they happen quietly.
Today we're not talking about monsters or horror stories. We're talking about real medical conditions that sound fictional, but aren't. Some of these cases have confused doctors and terrified patients. And in some cases, completely rewrote what we thought was possible. And before we start this video, I just want to welcome you guys to my channel. My name is Tony, and I love anything horror or medical related or just plain strange. So please follow and give me a like.
When the brain turns against you. The human brain is supposed to protect us. It controls our memories, emotions, and sense of reality. But sometimes it doesn't. There are documented cases where people suddenly lose the ability to recognize familiar faces. Not because of memory loss, not because of confusion, but because the brain doesn't recognize them anymore.
This medical condition is called prognosia. It is caused by a lot of things, primarily either a stroke or a brain injury. The terrifying thing about this is that there's no known cure. Obviously, it's damage done to the brain, so there's only so much we can do about it. And what's scary also is not able to recognize anybody. You can recognize their voices, obviously, right? And you can learn to differentiate them. But when you look at them, you don't recognize them. You don't know who they are.
Condition that erases sleep. Sleep is something we never think about until it's gone. It's an extremely rare condition where the body slowly loses the ability to sleep entirely. Not insomnia, but a total breakdown of the sleep cycle. At first it looks harmless, trouble falling asleep, then short rest periods, then none at all. The terrifying part isn't just exhaustion, it's what happens mentally. Memory fades, thoughts become fragmented, reality starts slipping, and there's currently no cure. Doctors can slow it down, they can manage symptoms, but once it starts, it doesn't stop.
This condition is called fatal familial insomnia. So basically, the way this is caused is that this thing called a prion, which is a misshaped protein, destroys the thalamus, which is this little part of the brain. Boom. Show down screen. That's part of the brain, and when it's destroyed, it causes basically the inability to sleep, which eventually causes death. It's one of those few conditions where something as natural, something as human, animalistic as sleep gets completely erased, which obviously all of us need sleep. No matter how, of a night owl you are or whatever, we all need to sleep, and without it, it just leads to our death. So something so natural just taken away from us is really freaking scary.
When the body becomes the cage. Imagine getting injured, and instead of your body healing itself normally, it becomes stiff and hard, just like a cage. This condition is called fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva. It causes the body to turn muscles and connective tissue into bone permanently. This happens because the mechanism that makes broken bones repair themselves does it for everything that's injured, from muscles to sprains to anything. And the worst thing is, you can't cure it because injections and surgery makes this worse. This condition doesn't rush. It builds and builds, and that patience is what makes it disturbing. Conditions that change identities. Some medical conditions don't just affect the body. They affect who you are. There are documented cases where people experience sudden, drastic personality changes after illness or injury. People become impulsive, emotionally distant, or behave in ways completely opposite to who they were before. Families often describe it as losing someone who's still alive.
One clear example of this being caused by an injury is the case of Phineas Gage. And if you don't know who Phineas Gage is, he was a man that lived way in the past. Boop. And he was working on, if I remember, a railroad or something of that sort, and they used dynamite. I could obviously go more into depth into it, but they used an explosive, and that shot a rod through Phineas Gage's head, completely severing the prefrontal cortex. And so because of that ended up causing a lot of changes in him, causing him to be irritable, to be very, very forgetful, and not to remember anything.
Why these conditions are terrible.
And these are examples of horror that doesn't just come from movies, it doesn't come from stories, it comes from us, it comes from biology, it comes from science. And that's what makes it scary, because sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes you get injured, sometimes, you know, that thing where you think is normal, oh, I feel sleepy, yeah, you feel off, ends up being something a lot more critical. So anyways, I enjoy talking to you guys, and I hope you guys come back. Feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.